Well, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson at his first pit stop during his two-day visit to India, the Sabarmati Ashram, where he has paid tribute to Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation here in India. Of course, Boris Johnson's two-day visit starts with his visit to the Sabarmati Ashram. He landed this morning in Ahmedabad. Then, of course, he headed to the hotel, and then, of course, now he's here. Along the way, after his landing from the airport to the hotel, there were several welcome ceremonies, small ones, with several traditional dances from across India being performed on the streets to welcome the UK Prime Minister to India. Now, this, of course, is his two-day visit. And then from here, he heads to to meet Mr. Adani, a prominent industrialist, and then, of course, he heads to the JCB plant. And then, of course, from there he comes back and visits Gandhinagar Gift City, and followed by that he, of course, moves to New Delhi, and there, of course, there are several meetings planned. But let's talk about Sabarmati Ashram, what Mr. Boris Johnson is here for. He's, of course, signed that guests register, and also he's spun the charkha. Now, the spinning wheel is, of course, something that's closely associated with Mahatma Gandhi, and any moment now Boris Johnson is expected to leave the Sabarmati Ashram and head to his meeting with Mr. Adani. Of course, a lot of people still on the streets, and you can see these posters, "Welcome to Gujarat." That is, of course, also the message with Boris Johnson here. These posters all across the city of Ahmedabad welcoming him to Gujarat. And this is, of course, a trip to India, but it begins with Gujarat in an election year. Prime Minister Modi, of course, showcasing his home state to an international audience. It started with the World Health Organization Director General. Now, of course, Boris Johnson, the UK Prime Minister, who's here at the Sabarmati Ashram. You can see in any moment now, Boris Johnson should be driving out of the Sabarmati Ashram. We'll be on those live pictures that we're bringing to you from Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad. Day one of his day two visit is, of course, beginning with this pit stop here at Sabarmati Ashram. So Boris Johnson now about to leave the Sabarmati Ashram. That's the pilot car pulling out of the Sabarmati Ashram, and there you can see his car, the black car, where with the UK flag, driving out of the Sabarmati Ashram. Boris Johnson, the UK Prime Minister, now headed to meet Mr. Adani, prominent industrialists. This, of course, is Boris Johnson's car. Here you can see him driving out of the Sabarmati Ashram. Very tight security. Mr. Johnson there, of course, waving from the car, and heading to his meeting with Gautam Adani, where, of course, from there, of course, he'll head to to the JCB plant at Baroda. So Mr. Johnson leaving the Sabarmati Ashram. Here you can see all the convoy now also moving out, and he will, of course, be driving to his meeting with Mr. Adani, following which he will fly out to the JCB plant in a helicopter and come back, and then, of course, be at Gandhinagar in the Gift City, where, of course, he will also be visiting. So that's, of course, the plan of action as far as Mr. Boris Johnson is concerned. He's left the Sabarmati Ashram here, and now, of course, you can see the Chief Minister of Gujarat, Mr. Bhupendra Patel, also leaving the Sabarmati Ashram after receiving Mr. Boris Johnson here. This, of course, is the Chief Minister's convoy, Bhupendra Patel, who was here to receive Boris Johnson, and many have already opined that Mr. Modi has clearly endorsed Mr. Bhupendra Patel for Gujarat elections later this year, but that's another topic. Right now, of course, Mr. Boris Johnson's visit to the Sabarmati Ashram here in Gujarat ending. He's now headed to meet Mr. Gautam Adani, a prominent industrialist, and then, of course, he also comes back to Gift City in Gandhinagar, and then, of course, from here he, of course, will head out to New Delhi, where there are a lot of events, important agreements that are being considered for signing. There's also his meeting with S. Jaishankar, the Foreign Minister of India, and also a meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Hyderabad House in the national capital, New Delhi. But before that, Mr. Johnson arriving here in Ahmedabad in Gujarat. And then, of course, after he completes his itinerary in Gujarat, which, like I mentioned, has 3 or 4 important things: the visit to the JCB plant, the visit to Sabarmati Ashram, which has just ended, a meeting with Mr. Gautam Adani, and then, of course, a visit to GIFT City, the financial tech city in Gandhinagar that's coming up. That, of course, is also on the agenda.
Right. Saurabh, around what time is he expected to arrive at the national capital and meet the Prime Minister, and before that meet the Jaishankar as well?
Well, you know, he heads to the national capital today. The meetings with the Prime Minister and also the Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar is scheduled for tomorrow, not today. So those meetings are lined up tomorrow. Today, of course, is a packed day for Mr. Johnson in Gujarat. He has 4 engagements. Officially, those engagements haven't been shared with us, but of course, those are the 4 engagements that we can confirm from local sources that he will be, honoring the commitments of visiting, the Sabarmati Ashram, which has already concluded. He's just driven out from here. We brought you those live pictures. Then, of course, he's headed to a meeting with Mr. Adani, following which he will fly out to the JCB plant and then come back to the GIFT City in Gandhinagar. So this is broadly his schedule today. These are the events that he's attending today. And then, of course, he heads out to the national capital, where he has those all-important meetings and the agreements that India is looking to sign with the UK lined up for tomorrow. He faces a lot of heat at home. Domestic politics clearly is something that Boris Johnson would at this point like to get away from, especially given the rousing welcome that he's received here in Ahmedabad.
Right, Saurabh, there in Ahmedabad, we just saw pictures of Boris Johnson at the Sabarmati Ashram there. He was at the Sabarmati Ashram just moments ago. He's just left from there. He's expected to have several meetings today as well in Ahmedabad. The Prime Minister has announced a £1 billion pound worth new commercial deals. 11,000 new jobs have been created through this huge new UK-India trade and investment deals. Many things on the agenda, including the Ukraine crisis that will figure in the talks. The Prime Minister will be meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi tomorrow in the national capital. He's also expected to meet Jaishankar. He's expected to leave for the national capital, like Saurabh was mentioning, today itself. But all those meetings are planned for tomorrow. Today, he's going to be spending the day in Ahmedabad. He just arrived this morning and went straight. The first stop was the Sabarmati Ashram. There you can see the Prime Minister visiting the Sabarmati Ashram, and from there moving on to in fact, he will be in Ahmedabad in the course of the day before he heads to the national capital.